Welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast, the photo imaging industry's leading news source. Here's your host, Gary Peugeot. The Dead Pixel Society podcast is brought to you by Media Clip, Advertech Printing, and Independent Photo Imagers.
Hello again and welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. I'm your host, Gary Peugeot, and today we're joined by Justin Benson, who's the co-founder of Aftershoot. And Justin's coming to us from Connecticut, but Aftershoot itself is a global company. We're going to talk about how the company started, what they offer, and where they're going. Hi, Justin. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you? Thanks so much for having me.
Talk to me a little about your journey as a photographer and how that led into the founding of Aftershoot.
My journey as a photographer was pretty interesting. I used to be a location scout for TV shows in New York City. So they'd give me a script. I'd go around and kind of hunt and find the places they would film. And through that, I was obviously taking pictures of cool places in New York. So I just fell in love with the photography aspect of that. And, I was just taking photos of cool things. And the set designers started seeing that and saying, hey, can I use this photo in the TV show? And I was like, yeah, that's the greatest honor. So then from there, they started asking me to do, photograph their sets for their TV shows. And then it just evolved into that, infamous, I need a wedding photographer this weekend because I don't have one.
Right.
And I fell in love with wedding photography. I mean, the first thing I did, I was head over heels. Everyone's happy, exciting. It's high energy. And that really I said, this is going to be my career path. So I kind of worked towards leaving the film industry and started my own wedding photography business. And with wedding photography, obviously there's a lot of problems that wedding photographers face. I mean, you're thousands of images, tons to edit and cull and do all of the things. So when I had saw a Facebook post from somebody saying there's this guy, he's looking to speak with photographers about a possible new culling software that would really help everyone get further along, I was like, I'm in. So I messaged him, and that was Harsha, the founder. So I messaged him, and we went back and forth and did some interviews and talked about a bunch about it. And he had built a proof of concept for us. So he had sent it to 50 different photographers right in March of 2020. So right as the world was about to shut down.
Great timing.
Yeah, it was perfect. So he sent out this beta build or proof of concept to 50 different photographers. 40 just didn't even respond. And 10 of them basically said, this will never work, right? Like you cannot make AI select images like a human would. And I saw all of the potential in it. And I said, it's really bad, but there's so much we can do to make this better. Let's start looking at these different things. And that positive reinforcement kind of led us to start the journey and actually try and make it a viable software.
So clearly, with March of 2020 happening, we have a pandemic just rolling out. You've got time on your hands to do this. So the timing was pretty fortuitous for you to be able to dedicate some resources to this. What was the thing you saw in Aftershoot, which was it even called that at the time?
It was called Aftershoot at the time. Yep.
So what is it you saw as the potential? Like you said, it wasn't ready for prime time. So was it just the concept of being able to select, let's say you took 1,000 pictures at a wedding, probably more like 3,000, and just getting that down to a reasonable number. Was that the idea, or was it actually something you saw in the technology that said, okay, this is better than something else?
So I saw the potential in the idea that AI can help you make those repetitive decisions, right? So the actual software itself, like it wasn't an interface. You just put some images in and then it spit out a bunch of stars or color ratings or whatever it was. But I just saw the potential there that if done right, if there was given a platform to allow me to tweak on what I'm doing, I could actually use it, right? So I had 2 weddings, like one the weekend, like Saturday, and then Sunday the world shut down. So I had that last wedding and I was like, I ran it through it and I was like, okay, this didn't really help me, but I know it can help me. I just have to figure out how I can make it help me.
So what was some of the insight you provided? Well, what was some of the input you had? I mean, obviously there was probably some UI suggestions you had.
I like to say it was the longest email in history. It must have been like a 5-page email. So I went through, from all the way from UI to algorithm to just like how a photographer would use it. Because we the main point of culling for a photographer at the time was to take less images into Lightroom because Lightroom was slow. So, you don't want to bring 5,000 photos into a catalog. You want to bring 1,000. The idea of Aftershoot at the time was you ran the images through, it would give it like ratings, and then you would just bring all 5,000 images in and use filters and stuff to kind of get the final set. And I was like, all right, first scratch that, right? You have to really understand the end goal of the user here. And then when it came to algorithms, it was really looking at what the AI saw, because you could kind of understand the decisions it was making. And you were able to say, okay, it's choosing these images for this reason, but that's not the right reason to choose those images.
Right.
So you have to kind of look and say, this is the priority in the categorization of how it should be looking at and assessing those images.
When you say what the end goal is, in your interpretation, what is the end goal of a wedding shoot?
For a wedding photographer, the end goal is to deliver a nice swath of images that represents the entirety of the day. It's capturing that emotion, that beauty, all of the different pieces. So having a diverse set of images that you can showcase.
It's not necessarily a book or a portfolio per se. That's what I'm trying to get.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you're looking, everyone has a different system, a different format. And I think that's what's really cool about photography. There is no straightforward answer to any question, right? So everybody does it a little bit different. They have a different concept of what they're looking for. So for us, for the culling portion, the end goal was to get them to not have to do all of the repetitive tasks. I mean, if you take 5 images in a row of the same thing, you have to pick one of the 5 and you have to go through all 5 to pick that one. That's a repetitive task. AI can pre-select it for you. So that was kind of the idea. How do you get them from point A to point B in a much more efficient way?
Because one of the things that happened, I think, when photographers went digital, right? In film days, they would shoot rolls of film so they could be much more selective. And so they would shoot not nearly as many, so they didn't have to choose from as many. But now you're shooting, like you said, thousands in a day because you're just press. And, so, hopefully everyone's eyes are open and, all those kind of things. So what are some of the things that Aftershoot specifically looks for, like for its initial run through?
The thing it does is it looks for similarity in images. And you can tell it how similar the images would need to be for them to be put into what we call like a group. So the idea is that Aftershoot's going to put those similar photos together, and then it's going to assess things like emotion and focus, like sharpness, things from composition to lighting. They're all factored in to try and suggest that best image. And it'll get it a lot of times. I mean, the last wedding that I actually delivered, 98.6% of the images my clients got were the ones that Aftershoot chose. So there was just a handful where maybe for one reason or the other, I felt I wanted a different version. A lot of times it ends up being compositionally. I may want like a slightly wider version than what was selected because it's looking at sharpness. And the closer you are to a subject, the sharper it seems to look. So it's looking at all of these different factors and just recommending what you should choose, but you don't have to. And I think that's the brilliance behind it. As creatives, it's so hard to just trust an AI system.
Right. I mean, they want some control, right? I mean, that's still what they...
It's funny. I equate it. We have the AI editing, and like I will go through and I will literally just add 0.05 exposure like manually to every single photo, or like take away 0.05 because I don't feel comfortable that AI did 100% of the job for me.
So where did Aftershoot train? What models was it using to train on this prior to 2020? And because I mean that an AI has to train on something, right?
Technically, yes, technically no. So a lot of the models that we were using at the time, it wasn't trained on like any data per se. It was models that were looking at things like, for instance, the focus model is looking at things where we basically apply like kind of a filter and look for sharp edges, right? So it's not necessarily a model that would be built out to say, okay, like here's 1,000 images that are sharp and understand that this is sharp, but rather assess what the sharp edges are of the image and that sort of thing. So a lot of it was built in-house. So that's why it took us a while to get off the ground because it wasn't anything that really existed. It was build a model, implement the model, and then see how that model affects other ones. Because, if you're rating emotion one way and you're rating blur the other way, if you have a really good emotion image and a really blurry photo that has the good emotion in it versus one that has no emotion and has the sharpness, how do you
Right.
choose?
Right.
So a lot of fiddling with those sort of things and figuring out, I mean, there's over 15 different algorithms making these decisions. So kind of figuring out how they need to interact with each other and create that network of deciding the best images through those.
And the photographer can actually choose, right? How they can kind of customize their look and let the AI do its magic in the way the photographer did. Because maybe you're a photographer who has the romantic, dreamy feel, and they want that. And there's others who are more journalistic. They're just documenting the event. And so Aftershoot can kind of take that into account, right?
Absolutely. So there's different algorithms that are looking at different things, especially for each different genre. So we let them decide like, hey, is this a wedding? The big example I use is like weddings and engagements. We're pulling out kisses because that's an important part of a wedding day. First kiss,
Right.
when the bride and groom kiss. But on like portrait and headshot sessions, we're not assessing kisses at all because hopefully you don't have people kissing in their headshots. So that kind of concept of each one has different algorithms. But what really adds to it is that over time, you're able to review your images in Aftershoot. So you can we have a bunch of cool tools that like pull out the key faces and really help a user do a manual review of the AI. As they make changes in there, the algorithms are learning. So it starts to understand, okay, they're always getting rid of the big happy smiles and going for the kind of muted, softer smiles. So we need to start prioritizing that emotion over the big happy laughing smiles to really cater to that specific user style.
So let's talk a little bit about coming on board as the business model, right? First of all, what is the business model, the pricing model? How do people acquire the product and pay for the product? And what do they get for that? And how did you come up with that? Because there's all kinds of ways to charge for things these days.
Being a photographer myself, I saw early on what a pain point it was to have to deal with per image. I mean, I was paying editors at the time like 35 cents an image to color correct and do these sort of things. And it was so painful getting that bill. Yes, it saves time, but I hated that like a wedding might cost me $300, $400 to have a human do it. So our entire model really revolved around how do we make photographers flourish? How do we make this business something that photographers latch onto and understand? We could be the business that charges per image and get tons and tons of revenue in there, but the photographers the whole time are going to be hesitant. Whereas our pricing model, it's flat rate. We designed this software to operate locally on the machine. So there's no cloud compute costs. So everything happens local on the user's machine, which means that our costs are significantly reduced. That's a huge strategy in our business model because it means unlimited. I mean, I still take photos. I still photograph weddings, but a lot of times I'm photographing my kids and, doing the fun stuff. I would literally collapse if I didn't have Aftershoot just because it's so much easier. So I can go take 150 photos of my kids running around in the park and I can run it through and have it cull and have it edit. And I don't have to spend time doing that part of the job or that part of that pleasure aspect. So having that unlimited system was really important to me. My business model as a photographer was do a lot of weddings, keep costs low so that I can charge a little bit less, but still make that value, which I am still relatively expensive as a photographer, but I'm not charging $10,000. I can charge $5,500 to do a wedding. And my costs per that wedding are significantly reduced because my entire subscription for Aftershoot is $720 a year for the highest package.
And the other thing it gains you is time, right? Because for a photographer, time is money because they could be doing other things while they're culling pictures, right?
There's so many different ways to kind of look at the benefits of it, whether it's getting time back or just offloading a part of that overloaded workflow. A lot of times September, October is a really busy season if you're anywhere where there's foliage and you just up. So being able to kind of offload some of that work to the AI and just get you further along. So you spend a little bit less time doing each task. It means that at the end of the day, you can deliver your images to your clients a little bit faster. And that's important this day and age. With phones that you just pull out and you're like, I've got a great photo. You're kind of competing with the fastest photographers out there. They're not good photographers, but they're taking that cell phone photo and instantly posting it to Instagram. And you have to basically come in and compete with that. So having that, ability to just alleviate some of that. Some photographers use it to take that time with family. Some photographers use it just to speed up the process.
Mm.
We have one photographer who did a case study, and he started using Aftershoot to deliver weddings within 2 to 3 days. So he would go in, get it done, no more 4 to 6 weeks, but get it done right away. And he was sending them an album design with their gallery. And he saw a 60% increase in sales of albums because they were still happy. They might have even been on their honeymoon still, right? All this fresh influx of cash. And he was able to upsell so much more.
Sure. Yeah, that's always surprised me how that more photographers haven't picked up on that piece of it, because I've seen that myself when I talk to the photo labs and all that who print the wedding albums and things. It's like the closer you can get that preview or the gallery to the event, the more likely people are going to buy. Once it's down the road, they've got other things to do. They're setting up their house. They're back from all that stuff is just you're losing that momentum.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
What are the new rules for business? Listen to Challenger X to find out.
You publicly talk about how much you've exited for.
This makes sense, okay? So people don't talk about this. I don't understand why people don't talk about it. Just tell them the damn number, right? It's not like, so I say I sold my company for $56 million. That's not how much money I got in my bank account, right? There's a whole bunch of other calculations that go on after that. So just tell the number, because it's useful for other entrepreneurs to know. Most companies exit around $30 million, right? I talk to people all the time. It's like, oh my gosh, if I can't get $1 billion exit, I don't know why I'm bothering doing that. Most companies exit for $30 million. You should know that kind of data.
Like what you hear? Listen to Challenger X for more.
Yeah, life takes over. They'll always be a happy married couple, hopefully.
Yeah.
But the first week, they're really still excited.
Yeah.
Fresh. They have their rings. They're on honeymoons, or I just got married, and they're so much more prone to spend that extra dollar on an album than 6 to 8 weeks later. So yeah, there's a multitude of ways that people influence their business with it. It could be to make more money. It could be to just save the time. It could just be to not be overwhelmed by how much work you have on your plate.
Sure, exactly. I'm kind of interested about the decision to go to a desktop application versus a cloud, because the cloud stuff, it's per penny or per unit, but it also generates costs every time you do it from an AI standpoint, right? Every time you're hitting that cloud, there's a cost involved. But with yours, it's all on the device.
Yeah, we have minimal server costs. So all of our costs comes from just developing faster and building new technology. And we actually, in a month, we're launching a retouching, and it's again a local software. So it's going to be able to do skin softening and blemish removal and stray hair removal and all of these object removal, all of these different things, but we're doing it local. So there's no compute costs on the cloud. It allows us to keep a very stable pricing plan for our users. So it's predictable. Nobody likes unpredictability. So not knowing how much your editing bill for the year is that's frustrating. If you're a photographer making $100,000 a year and you don't know if you're going to have a $5,000 or $30,000 bill for all of the stuff you need for editing, how do you budget? How do you plan ahead? How do you save for retirement? There's no stability in a model like that. And another big portion of it, for me, I travel a lot. We go to conferences, you're all over the place. I live in Connecticut, which doesn't seem very rural, but my street loses power usually once a year for 4 or 5 days, right? So
you get snow there,
we get snow and it knocks down some trees, and I'm out of power for 4 or 5 days. So I don't have Wi-Fi. And for me, not being able to work, that would be devastating. So not being able to upload, to have it do those things, it would destroy my business. So that was really important to me all along, is just having that local ability so that I can just use it where I need to use it. I started delivering a sneak preview of weddings to my couples on the day. So I'll actually go in and the venues don't have Wi-Fi that's public or whatever it may be. So I can actually run the culling and the editing during dinner, and then I airdrop them photos before I leave. And they're super excited. They're posting on social media and tagging me. It's such a great marketing campaign, so to speak, to be able to do that. But I couldn't do it if I had to depend on Wi-Fi. And then, of course, the last one is privacy. we have boudoir photographers and, different genres of photography, kids and family and that sort of stuff.
Sure.
Uploading to a server, you don't know a lot of times you don't really know who owns the company, but you also don't know what's happening with that data. Like, are those boudoir photos going somewhere that you wouldn't want them to? Are you breaking privacy clauses, GDPR and all of these different things? Like, how do you ensure that the AI that you're using is safe? And in our case, it doesn't go anywhere. It's on your computer, so it is safe.
Well, that is a big concern, obviously, with a lot of photography, right? With especially a lot of the states. I know Illinois, California are looking at various privacy things, especially with children, right? If you're posting images can be, fraught with challenges just because of that, right?
Fortunately, we don't have to navigate that because we have that local platform. So, and it's confidence. I feel confident in not having those images go anywhere that I would be worried about. I don't know where like some of the competitors are even hosting, right? Like, what if they're hosting on Amazon and they get hacked? Does that mean that all of those images are now leaked somewhere and I am responsible because I took those photos and uploaded them to the server?
You mentioned earlier some of the features you think about adding. What is the roadmap? Because it sounds to me like you're almost getting into Lightroom-ish category, right? If you're getting into editing tools and things like that.
Yeah, so one of the really cool things about our product, we have 24-hour in-app support. We have a request feature button and that sort of stuff. And we're really kind of letting our users drive the need. Like, what are your pain points in the current platform? What can we do that would help you along further? So for us, there is a clear vision as where we want to go as a company, right? We want to make sure that we're making as seamless and as smooth of a process for photographers that allows them to be as hands-on or as hands-off as they'd like to be. Mm-hmm. So we're focused on kind of building that, but then, somebody comes in and the retouching was like the obvious one for us. They were saying, hey, like, I really wish there was AI that wasn't in the cloud that could remove pimples.
Basic stuff.
And we were like, okay, we can definitely accomplish that and keep it all in one place, because right now you're going from, say, Aftershoot to Lightroom to Photoshop back to Lightroom. So how can we kind of remove some steps and get you a lot further along in the process?
So you said retouching was one. What kind of retouching? Are we talking about just like simple blemish removal or some of the more advanced stuff?
We have object removal as well. So it's stray hairs and blemish removal, a lot of vanity stuff, wrinkles, acne.
Ex-boyfriend.
And not, I mean, you could try and get my friend out. The object removal, to be honest, I'm really, really excited about the object removal because it is, again, not cloud-based. So it's a local object removal. And the results have been extremely impressive. I mean, I've compared them kind of side by side to some of the things that Adobe has launched recently with the object removal in Lightroom. And I got better results with ours, which was so interesting to me because theirs is a cloud-based system and ours is a local one. So I expected ours to underperform, but I found that it was doing oftentimes a better job. So to me, that was a really cool thing to have in my pocket, is just being able to take care of that without Wi-Fi. Again, anywhere in the world, you can be on a plane and be removing objects if you'd like to.
We mentioned, a $700 investment. What are are there various plans, or is that basically the one plan?
There's loads of plans. So we have a culling only plan. Some photographers just need that help going through the images and they can handle the rest.
And there's no image limit on that. It's just
still unlimited. Yep. So everything's totally unlimited. So your culling only plan is going to get you just the culling, unlimited culling, all the review tools and everything. And that goes for $120 a year. And then we have our next one up, which is the culling and the AI editing. So we have AI editing. What it does is it basically goes in and it will adjust all the images, correct exposure and white balance, and apply the style. And that plan, there's two versions of that plan, but then you would open those images up in Photoshop or Lightroom to review them because they have the raw rendering portion of it. So with those plans, you're looking at, say, $240 if you want to use one of our styles. So it's culling, editing, unlimited for $240, editing in one of our styles. And then you have the next tier up, which is $480, which that does have a cloud compute cost. That's why that one's a bit more, because what we can do is you can upload Lightroom catalogs and we can learn how to edit like you. So we replicate your editing style. It runs locally still, but we need the training part. It's too much for a computer to train that big of a model. So you'd upload and then we send the model down to your computer. And then from that point forward, all your editing is hosted on your computer. And then the top tier is the retouching and multiple profiles and all the different pieces.
Can you apply like different photographer styles? Because I know that's a thing where photographers can provide styles. Is that something you offer?
Yeah, so we have 42 of our own styles that are free inside of the app. And then we also have ones that you can purchase. So these are those creator profiles.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
It's like, yeah, kind of like the leaders of the industry. You know,
so
for
if I want to have my Justin Benson profile, can I do that?
Yeah, so actually my profile is in Aftershoot.
Nice.
Yeah, and all of the proceeds for my profile, they all go to charity. So like last year we ended up bringing the proceeds from the profile down to Peru. We were on like a family vacation. We gave Christmas to 50 kids who
that's nice. That's awesome.
And yeah, so as a company, it's something that we're really proud of. We always want to, back what we're doing, right? We want to make sure that we're taking care of this industry because this industry, I mean, I've seen a ton of companies kind of come in, steamroll it and walk out with their profit. But it's my industry, right? It's so valuable to me because this is the industry that supported me for so long. And I want to make sure that we support it and give it the best that we can back.
Where can people go to get more information about Aftershoot and the various things that you offer to check you out if they're interested in downloading or even partnering with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So aftershoot.com is our website. You can always find us on all the social media platforms. We're Aftershoot Co. So Aftershoot CO. But yeah, aftershoot.com is a great place. And we're always open to hanging out and talking and seeing what we can do. Like I said, I love this industry. So I want to see it flourish and I want to see it grow and have exponential success. I want to, rising tide lifts all boats in this industry. It's really important. It is a tight knit industry.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody in some way, shape, or form.
Exactly.
So I'd love to make sure that we have a prosperous future together. I'm sure many of us are afraid of what AI is doing with so many of these other generative AI things. There's tons of photographers like, will I even have a job in 5 years? But for us, we're all about making sure that we can uplift everybody and we all have jobs in 5 years.
Well, I think it's even going to be longer than that. I mean, I think I think AI is a great tool, but I don't think it's going to replace human beings in creative aspects where they can add value and things. Certainly things like stock photography and things like that, there's going to be challenges. But, I don't know if AI is going to be able to generate a wedding. So I could be wrong, but not within the next 5 years.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Good to meet you. Take care. Thanks. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. Read more great stories and sign up for the newsletter at www.thedeadpixelssociety.com.